So when we write a system, so we're going to end up writing two equations now. We need to identify our variables, and then we can write our equations. And I'd like to say, like I said before, that there's like, do it this way every time. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So we're going to just really focus on looking for keywords, okay? So if Monica builds a porch that has 2 different colored bricks to create a pattern, she purchased red bricks for $2 and gray bricks for $3. Write a system that can be used to find the number of each type of brick she got, and she spent $160 on 60 bricks. Okay, there's a lot going on there. Would you agree? So let's start with our variables. Well, what does Monica have? What does she have?
$160.
She does. She has $160. Okay. So is that going to be like in the middle of an equation? Is that going to be in equals? What is that going to be? That's going to be in equals. So I'm just going to make a little note here. Bless you. So we know I have one equation that is 160. I'm going to put a dollar sign here. We're probably, because we have other dollar amounts, I want you to notice that we are probably going to keep those dollar amounts together when we write that. We want to keep our monies with our monies. What else do we know about Monica? Okay, and then we have something also that adds up to be 60. And that 60, that is our bricks. So I'm just going to put a little bit of labels there. I would like to tell you that there's always going to be a money one and then another one. That's not always the case. So we're just going to take it one at a time. What are our variables? What are we adding to get 160, or what are we adding to get 60? What is Monica using to build her porch? Red bricks and gray bricks. Okay, so we have red and we have gray. Do you want to use X and Y? Do you want to use R and G? What is your, you can use whatever you want. When you use X and Y. Okay, so you want X to be red? Or, okay. And that's your preference, okay? Sometimes they will write these equations with X's and Y's. Sometimes it will be other letters. Maybe they use R and G. So, okay. Are we feeling okay so far? Now, so we have these 2 different kinds. Let's keep reading. It tells us she purchased red bricks for $2 each. Oh, there's an each word. What does each tell us? For one. Okay. Also, per, each, every is our what? Our M, which is our multiply. So could we say that this is going to be 2, and we're going to use X for red? So 2 times each red brick. So maybe I have 5. I would do 2 times 5. Or if I had 10 red bricks, I would do 2 times 10. What else does it tell us she did? It says gray bricks are $3 each. What do you think that's going to look like? What did we use for gray? Y. So each is a multiply word. So we're going to end up multiplying it by some letter. So if we have that in our sentence, what is that going to look like? And which equation are we going to put it in? These are dollars amounts. So do we want to put that in our money equation or our brick equation? Probably money. What is that going to look like? What about our red bricks? What did we write there? 2 what? 2x plus 3y equals $160. So $2 again, like maybe we bought 50 red bricks, so 2 times 50 would be $100, and then maybe I bought 20 gray bricks, so 20 times 3 is 60. Put them together, you get 160. Okay. Now this is the tricky part. If we bought 60 bricks, what kind of bricks could we buy? Red or gray? What is red? What did we use for red? X. However many red plus how many gray? okay? Then we could go through and solve it. We are not solving today. This second equation, while it looks simpler, is usually the hardest one to write, okay? It's very, okay, we had 60 total. Well, what did we have? We had red and we had gray. It's hard to do visually, and it's also hard to wrap our brain around. So we're going to focus on that today. The Spanish Club bought 34 tacos for $40 for the fundraiser. They got chicken tacos for $1 and beef tacos for $1.50. Write two equations that can be used to solve the system. We're not going to actually solve it. So we can cross that out. What did the Spanish Club buy? Tacos. What kind of tacos? Beef and chicken. So those are the two things that we are going to be putting together. Chicken and beef. You need to decide what variable you want to put with those. Do you want to use C and B? Do you want to use X and Y? Do you want to use some other random letter that might be confusing, but you could? What do you want to use? X and Y or C and B. We'll write it both ways in case. Okay, you just want to do X and Y? Okay. Maybe on the next one we use different ones, but that's fine. All right, so first we've identified our variables. Are we okay with that? Look at this first sentence. They purchased 34 tacos for $40. When you buy something, like on the warm-up, I bought apple and pumpkin pie, and I spent that much money. Did I purchase those things? So purchase is going to be an equals word for you, okay? And it's going to be a sum, right? Because when we purchasing, if I go to H-E-B and they, scan all of my stuff, they're adding it all together and saying, this is your total. This is how much you bought. Does that make sense? So we know we're going to have an equals 34. This is going to be our taco equation. And it's also going to have a second one that equals $40. So we're going to have a money equation. It says they got chicken tacos. What letter did we use for chicken? X. For $1 each. So $1 for each chicken taco, so 1X. And what about the beef tacos? Beef tacos were $1.50. So what are we going to put with the $1.50? The Y. Now, those are monies. So do we want to put the $1 and the $1.50 with the 34 or with the 40? The 40, very nice. And what is that going to look like? What did we write right here? One what? 1X plus 150 what? Y. So then what does our taco equation look like? What did we got? 34 tacos. What kind of tacos did we buy? Chicken, which was what? X, and beef was Y. So however many chicken and however many beef together is 34 tacos. Sarah enjoys cutting lawns and charges $20 for a small lawn. There's that each word. So we know we're going to be doing what there? What does each tell us? And we know we're going to be multiplying something. And $30 for each large lawn. So we're multiplying something there. She mows and she trims. She earned. Earned is a what kind of word? Is that an equals word? Yes. All right. So she earned $140. And we know we're adding. We won't always be adding, but when it says words like that, that means adding. $140 for 6 yards. So we have monies and we have yards. Right and solve, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So we know she did something. She got $140 and she did that with 6 yards. What kind of lawns is she cutting? What are our variables? Small and what? and large. All right, do we want to use X and Y here? Yes. Okay, I would strongly use X and Y here. I know we talked about using other letters. However, if we use an S and we use an L, we have to be very careful because sometimes when we write an S, it looks like a what?
5.
A 5. And sometimes an L looks like a 1. So I would stay away from certain letters like that. I mean, if you wanted to use like M and G or something like that, you could. But just be careful with certain letters. So let's go back to the beginning. $20. There's that each word, each small lawn. What does that? 20. What did we say for small? 20x, because we said each was multiply. I'm going to put that with my monies. And 30 for each what? Each y. Very nice. 30 y. Oh, look, we wrote one already. So however much for each small times 20 plus however much for each large times 30. And she made $140. So then how are we going to figure out she's mowed 6 yards? Well, what kind of yards did she mow? Small and large. So what is that going to look like? Just X and Y. What do you know about the word perimeter? All the way around. Okay, so if I'm going to draw a rectangle for you here. And if we're going to add up all of the pieces, right? Perimeter means we're adding all the outside. Guys, this word is means equals. Make a little note. Is equals. So whenever you see that, is a number equals that number. So I know I'm going to have something equals 78, and we're going to be adding things. Do you see how I got that from the first sentence? Now, this second sentence is a tricky one. The length, okay. Oh, there's that word, is. What does that mean? Equals. So I'm going to put a big equals there. Is 7 more. What does more mean? Adding, yeah, I heard someone say it. 7 more than the width. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's actually focus on this second sentence right here. And let's identify our variables first. What are the two things that they're talking about in that sentence? What are we talking about in that sentence that I highlighted in yellow? The what? The length. Is 7 more than the what? The width. So those are the things, because when we do perimeter of a rectangle, right, we have length here, width here, width here. Yes? So do you want to use X and Y? Do you want to use L and W? What would we like to use here? We're just going to stick with X and Y. That's fine. So let's go back up to this. We're going to start with the one that I highlighted. Length. What are we using for length? X. Look at our sentence right here. X equals 7 plus, what are we using for width? Y. Is that not an equation right there? X equals 7 plus W. Sorry, Y, not W. I usually use W, so thank you. Sorry about that. Go back to perimeter. So you said I need to add up all these things. So I'm going to add my length and my length and my width and my width. Right? Do we just want to write all of that out? We're using X and Y, so could I say X plus Y plus Y equals 78? Could I do that? I could. Can we simplify that a little bit? Because that's kind of long. 2 X's, right? There's ones in front of all of these. We could collect like terms. So we have 2 X's and what? 2 Y's equals 78. So this one we would actually just solve. What I would not give you equations on this one. I would give you tables, and we would use Desmos, or we would use the yellow calculator to write those equations. Okay, so we're not actually going to do that piece. We are going to do a couple more examples from the classwork piece. So if a customer at the store paid $64 for 3 large candles and 4 small candles. Any keywords there we want to mark? Paid. What does paid mean? Equals. So we know we've got something equals 64. Do we agree with that? Okay. At the same store, a second customer, paid. Okay, so there's a equals again. Paid for more than. What does more than mean? Adding the first customer for 1 large and 8 small. Oh my. There's a lot going on here. It tells us down here, each large is X and each small is Y. So maybe we need to go back and put some letters. You want to go back to the first sentence? She paid 64, which we already did, for 3 large. What was large? What letter? X. Let's put an X there. Can I put 3X down here? And 4 small. What was small? Small was Y. So what needs to be in between these? Because when we're buying things, what operation are we doing? We're adding, we're plussing. There's our first sentence. Okay, let's talk about the second customer. They paid for more than the first customer. How much did the first customer pay? 64. What's 4 more than that? 68. How much is the second customer paying? How much is the second customer paying? 68. And what did they buy? 1 large. What is that? Large. 1X. And 8 small. 8Y. So we have a drummer and we have a guitarist. They wrote songs for their band. Well, yay, they have a band. That's very cool. The guitarist wrote 8 fewer than twice the number of songs that the drummer wrote. Wow, that's a mouthful. They wrote a total of 46 songs. Total. Add. And what? Equals. So something equals 46. And it tells us D is for drummer and G is for guitarist. So if they wrote 46 songs, do we know what adds to be 46? Who is they? The guitarist and the drummer. So what is the drummer? D. What's the guitarist? G. Okay, let's go back up to that second sentence because it's a doozy. The guitarist. What is the guitarist? What are we using for guitarist? G. He wrote. This is going to be an equals word. Now, 8 fewer than. What does fewer than mean? We're going to be minusing. Now, I'm going to put a little star here because we're going to have a conversation about that. Twice. What does twice mean? Multiply by 2. 2 times the drummer. What is drummer? D. Okay. So I have guitarist. Now we have to decide. I'm going to write this over on the side. We have 8 minus 2D. We have to decide if that makes sense. What if the drummer wrote 10 songs? If I put 8 minus 2 times 10, what do we get there? I get 8 minus 20, which is a negative. Does it make sense to write negative songs? No. It doesn't make sense to have negative 12 songs. I don't even know how that would work. So we'll add this to the board. Fewer than means you got to write things the other way. So twice the drummer minus 8. Does that make more sense? So we're going to write it on our paper and then we'll add it to the board. If you see the word fewer than or the word less than, not the inequality less than, because I know we talked about that this week. This means subtract at the end. Subtracting at the end, right? So if your younger brother is 3 years fewer than you, we're not going to write, that means he's younger, right? So we're not going to write 3 minus, maybe your age is, what, 15? We're not going to write 3 minus 15. That doesn't make sense. Are you a negative number? That doesn't make sense. But could we write your age minus 3? So this one is super, super tricky, which is why I wanted to go over that one with you. So when you see fewer than or less than, we're going to have to put, even though it's written in the sentence, 8 and then twice the number of songs for the drummer. We have to put that 8 at the end of our equation. All right, so we said morning is going to be X and afternoon is going to be Y. So what did we write for this first bullet? Last month he delivered mail on the morning route. Morning we said X 16 times. What does that look like? 16X plus afternoon was Y, and he did that 12 times. Total, yes, equals 141. Very nice, very nice. What about our second bullet? 10X plus 15Y equals 123.75. Very nice. Good job, good job. When you have a question like number 5, we already know how to write an equation from a graph, right? Our B is minus 4. We went up 1 and over 4. We can do that. You could also put your points into Desmos. We could also, could we put this table into Desmos to write our equation? Yes. So that would be your strategy here. If they give you 2 tables, or they give you a graph and a table, or they give you 2 graphs, we're just going to use our normal strategies to write those equations. So using Desmos, we got y equals, we can leave it a decimal if we want, or we can write a fraction, negative 0.75. So you can write it with a decimal, or you can write it with a fraction. Make sure you keep your sign, and we just use Desmos.